Well, today is May 4th, 2014, and I recently had a comment on my blog from somebody pointing out to me something about fusion centers coming up all over the country. Now, I know virtually nothing about fusion centers, never heard of it before, and today I decided to Google it, to look it up a little bit, and I've just spent about 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, looking it up online. And I'm on the Homeland Security page. What website is this? www.dhs.gov, and then it just says state and major urban area fusion centers. I've read this page explaining apparently from the Homeland Security's explanation of fusion center. After reading this page, it just comes across to me as one big giant ass fascist system. It's nothing. It sure as hell is nothing new. Just because they institute some sort of a new system doesn't change the fact the tactics they have been using for fucking decades. So just because they establish some sort of an agency and then start officially exercising such activities doesn't change the fact that they've been doing this shit for decades, people. So this fusion center thing that was pointed out to me on my blog site, after reading what little I've read about it, and this is the only website I've gone to so far, basically their official website where they're giving their explanation as to what it is. And after reading it, it sure as hell comes across as some sort of a fascist agency where law enforcement is recruiting civilians and civilian corporations and civilian partners, blah blah blah. Whatever their explanation, doesn't matter. What it boils down to is it's just law enforcement's way of officially, in some sort of an official capacity, they're announcing that they're recruiting people, civilian people, into law operations, law enforcement type operations. After reading everything on that page, I've read absolutely nothing that's brand spanking new whatsoever. The tactics that they have been fucking using officially and or unofficially for fucking decades. So this is actually absolutely nothing new whatsoever. Apartment managers for decades, for fucking decades, have helped law enforcement to frame people and to set people up and assist law enforcement in targeting people and framing people, and they've done that for freaking decades. So if all of a sudden they're going to start announcing fusion centers and trying to act like this is all official and all new and everything, they've been doing this kind of shit to people for decades. Okay, they're just being more openly fascist now, and basically establishing in some sort of a formal way this kind of a partnership that they have with certain types of people, that are civilians and not legally in law enforcement or officially working for law enforcement. But this kind of shit's been going on for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. And news media just mums the freaking word about it, and it says nothing. News media does not want you to know how certain civilians that are not involved officially in law enforcement always cooperate with certain law agencies and target people. And they don't want people to know about it. They don't want you to think too hard about it. They don't want people to be aware of such organizing of people. And the reason why is because it's criminal conspiracy is what it is. If 20 people get together and decide they're going to target one person, guess what? Those 20 people can literally destroy somebody through their efforts and their activities alone, and because they're operating under the pretense of some sort of sting operation or the pretense of an investigation, they're able to get away with screwing people over behind their backs and shit, and they're able to get away with it because it's a covert operation. Now, there's a lot of people that talk about gang-stalking and shit on the internet. There's a lot of people that talk about special programs that the FBI has or whatever, or the NSA or whatever. They always try to link all that kind of shit to some sort of weird crap. And the reason why they do that is because they try to conceal the fact that all this targeting, all this gang-stalking / targeting that these people do, they do because it's always local. First and foremost, it's local. It's not some big, giant, shadowy, fucking ass federal agency that's doing all this shit. It's your fucking local police. It's your local firemen. It's your local county sheriffs and your local state police. And yes, local FBI. They all work together in targeting people. And all first responders, whether it be police or firefighters or paramedics or ambulance drivers, it don't matter. You know, they're all working for the fascist system, and they all lie for one another, and they all cover for one another, and they never admit when they're covertly targeting people. Okay, they don't admit to that. I mean, everybody knows they were targeting Michael Jackson, and they were targeting O.J. Simpson, and they did this for fucking years. And they weren't really hiding this. They at no time were hiding it. You can Google their history of targeting those two men, and you know what? They never stopped targeting those men until they're dead or incarcerated. They never stop targeting people. They keep targeting people all the fucking time, and they never stop. Okay? And they don't give a shit if a person knows it or not. Now, federal government can create some stupid-ass agency called fusion centers and pretend it's all brand new. All they fucking like. It's not new at all. They've been doing this to people for fucking decades, okay? Decades. All right? I mean, the law enforcement, I have witnessed in the early 70s. It was 1970, 1971. Okay, I was very young back then. 1970, 1971, I witnessed the Multnomah County sheriffs and some of my neighbors setting up another neighbor as a pedo. And the Multnomah County sheriff officer was acting as a double, and the neighbors that were framing this neighbor, they ordered their children to go play in this person's yard, and a county sheriff officer was inside that person's home and was impersonating that person, and he was tossing candy bars out the damn window. And while he did that inside their target's home, the neighbors that ordered the children to go play in that yard and to go pick up those candy bars, they were across the street with a photogenic camera and taking photos of it. Okay? So law enforcement and their relatives and their buddies and their girlfriends have worked together for decades to set people up. And they fabricate evidence by staging crimes. They stage events. They'll stage a crime and then give their target the blame. Okay, so this kind of organization is nothing freaking new at all. They've been doing this to people for fucking decades. Now, somebody on my blog asked that I look up fusion centers. Now, I've spent 5 minutes basically on the Homeland Security's official webpage, and I'm still on a freaking page. And you don't scare me, Homeland Security. Fuck you. Fuck off. I've been on their webpage for 5 minutes. Oh, quiver, they're going to hack my computer. My lousy, crappy-ass $300 computer. Fuck you. Whatever. I'll just format the hard drive, reinstall the operating system, and not give a shit. Fucking dicks. I spent 5 minutes looking up fusion centers, and as far as I can see, it's nothing more than same old, with the exception that they're just kind of formalizing what they've been already doing for fucking decades, and they're just trying to make it look more official and more legal and more established in an they're trying to make it officially acceptable and official. But they've been doing this kind of shit to people for fucking decades. This is absolutely fucking nothing new whatsoever. I mean, the government's fucking corrupt. Period. They're just corrupt. And it doesn't matter what the fucking agency is. It doesn't goddamn fucking matter. They're all corrupt, every single fucking one of them. A fascist country is filled with the government in a fascist country is filled with fascists. And guess what? Those fascists have relatives, and those fascists have friends and girlfriends and so on, and they want to give those people high-paying jobs and security and so forth. So fascist governments always grow in size because they have to give their buddies and their relatives and shit jobs. And guess what? To justify their jobs, that means they need to target people. They need to justify their actual jobs by actually targeting people. Now, guess what? Law enforcement is organized, and they recruit people. I mean, you can go to this freaking website. They're actually admitting they're recruiting private sectors. In other words, that's their way of saying their buddies and their girlfriends and people that they selectively choose to be a part of their craft. In other words. Oh man, don't get me started on this shit. Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, this shit's nothing new. This kind of crap is nothing new. That don't surprise me at all. If you try to look up gang-stalking on the internet, you're going to be met with a whole lot of crap. They start talking about energy weapon shit like that. You know what? That's your own goddamn government spewing stories out there like that because they want your government wants their victims to appear mental. So they'll try to associate gang-stalking tactics with energy beam weapon crap and all that kind of other sci-fi crap that they keep talking about. They do that because they want you to associate craziness with gang-stalking because that way you appear mental. So the vast majority of shit that you look up on the internet about gang-stalking is actually, those stories that you read about gang-stalking is actually, most of them are people that in law enforcement they wrote. Because they want their targets, their victims to appear mental. Anybody that has a complaint on government, I don't care who it is, if you accuse government officers of organized crime, you immediately get labeled mental by the government, and you get ganged up on by people on the internet that are part of the government. They'll troll you on the internet. Government will literally troll a person. Like let's say you actually witness several law officers commit a felony crime, and you try to report this, and the police just cover up your 911 call and don't act on it and do nothing. And you try to warn people about this, and you go on the internet and you try to warn people about it. You literally get ganged up on by people that are that'll label you mental. And they do your government always attacks, they always slander their victims to discredit them as witnesses, and that's why they do it. And they taunt their victims on the internet. The government will terrorize their victims on the internet. The government will constantly, you'll have literally 20 people or 30 people, that you don't know who they are because they're on the freaking internet, and they have some kind of a stupid made-up name that they made for themselves, an internet name, not their real names. So you get anonymously ganged up on by 20, 30 fucking people, and it's no damn different than being ganged up on by KKK members. Gee, when they wear their white hoods, aren't they anonymous too? See, it's virtually the same fucking thing. The KKK ganged up on people back in the 1920s, and they lynched people all the time, murdered people all the time, and they never fucking stood trial for it, and they got away with it. And the news media back then labeled the KKK a bunch of pieces of shit, good guys and crap, and labeled their actions as justified and all that. Well, that's what your media does now for your government. And your government gangs up on people. Anybody that complains about government gets ganged up. Oh, I'm sure they probably have me on some sort of list. I bet you do. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't. Or did. I wouldn't care. Piece of shit, fascist, fuck, son of a bitch. Go pal around with department managers some more, so you fucking fascists. Yeah, go pal around with apartment managers. We all know how you all love to recruit apartment managers. This is how you fucks get away with bugging people's homes and shit. You all have apartment managers on your sides. Gee, guess what? Guess what jobs cops' girlfriends get? They get jobs as apartment managers. Fascism. That's fascism. Government makes sure that their own gets taken care of at the expense of everybody else's lives. And fascists will slander the living shit out of their targets behind their back. And they do it behind your back so that you can't defend against it. Literally, they do it behind your back so that you can't defend against it. Everybody knows slander is illegal. If you're going to say something bad about somebody, you better be prepared to back it up. Fascist people in government always slander their targets and more often than not have no intention of backing it up. And if you accuse them of slandering you, they'll look you in the face and they'll smirk and they'll call you crazy. Even if you catch them doing it, even if you catch them slandering you behind your back and you confront them, they'll look at you and smirk and they'll call you crazy. So it's their way of making it known that not only are they targeting you, it's their way of making it known that, you have no way to get help. There's nobody that you can call that cares. There's nobody in government that gives a shit. Your government has used flyers for decades to slander people, to target people behind their backs. Everybody knows this occurs, and most people never give it much thought. We hear about it, but, everybody from time to time receives a flyer or something, a bad person that might be in the neighborhood. And, we usually, most people that are, unaware of how corrupt their government is, takes everything at face value and just assumes, well, if the government says such and such person's a bad guy, then that person must be a bad guy, huh? Better be on the lookout for that person, huh? See, that's how most people are. What people don't realize is your government deliberately and intentionally slanders the living shit out of innocent people, and they usually have a personal motive for doing it. I mean, the government will literally pedify innocent people that they have personal grudges with. And they use flyers to do it. And you're not given a trial. You're not convicted of a crime. You don't even get a trial. They'll just pedify you with flyers. And then they smirk when you try to find out who's doing it, and they'll pretend to not know what you're talking about. But they smirk while they do it. So it's their way of making it known they just don't give a fuck. And your news media looks the other way every fucking time. So your news media knows all about how your government targets people and how they pedify people using flyers and shit. And the people that they pedify usually end up dead within 5 years. And your news media is mums the word about that too. So yes, it's organized crime, it's organized murder, it's done right in front of everybody's face. The pedifying part that the government does is never really hidden. Pedifying is done very publicly, very, very publicly. And they gang up on the person that they pedify. And it's like law enforcement uses the school system to pedify people. And the people they pedify usually end up dead within 5 years. Most people that are pedophied by the government meaning law enforcement, local authority, not some big wig fucking federal fucking agency. I'm talking about local fucking law enforcement, your local police force, your local county sheriffs. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. If they want somebody dead, they pedify that person, and they'll contact the local schools in the neighborhood of the person they're targeting, and they'll give the schools the description of the person they're targeting, and they will accuse that person of being a pedophile. And they usually don't give the person's name when they do this. They just give the description of what the person looks like, and then they'll make up a faked, staged crime that they'll give as a description. And they'll say something like, such and such person with this description was seen on such and such street doing such and such crime. Be on the lookout. That kind of a thing. Okay? Now, law enforcement already knows who the fuck the person is. They're deliberately and intentionally giving the description of somebody they're already targeting to the schools, and then the schools help the police or county sheriffs in the pedifying of that person by printing thousands and thousands of flyers. And then those flyers are given by hand to students, and then they're told to take those flyers home to their parents. So most of the pedifying they do doesn't even go through the mail system. The schools, they just use the schools to pedify people, and the schools hand out the flyers to the students, and then the students are told to give the flyers to their parents. Okay, there's a system right there of targeting, a specific, everybody knows about system of targeting. What people don't realize or don't know is that the vast majority of people they do this to are already surrounded by undercover officers that are renting apartments surrounding theirs and have been staging crimes using an officer as a double. And they don't have to be an exact twin, just, you know, semi-close looking. It's good enough. And then they just dress up like the person they're targeting, and then they stage crimes. And they usually document the crime by taking fuzzy photogenic photos or fuzzy video surveillance from a distance. And they usually get side shots and back shots of the double. And then, of course, they have their buddies that have children or their girlfriends that have children to back up false allegations against their target. Now, all said and done, that's on average of around 20 to 30 people that are organized in targeting an individual. And they are organized to the extent that they attack the target's name and reputation, and they do so well before there's ever any kind of a trial. More often than not, there never is. More often than not, there's never a trial. They're just pedifying. And yes, they use that term. They call it pedifying. When they have it out for somebody that they want dead, the person in law enforcement that is in the superior will tell his underlings to pedify him. And what that essentially amounts to is they'll run around and they'll literally run around the target's neighborhood and with a picture of that person. They'll say, yeah, you see this person? Be on the lookout for him. He's a pedo. That's all they have to do. That's literally all they have to do. And then, of course, they use the schools to print flyers. They use the schools to print flyers, and then they pedify. And then, of course, all that pedifying is not going through the mail system. So there's no official anything happening. And usually when this happens, usually there's no mention of it in the news. On local TV news stations, usually say nothing about it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. If they plan on having a trial at some point, then it usually goes on the news, usually. But if they have no intention of having a trial, and they just want to pedify somebody, then it usually doesn't go on the news, and they just use word-of-mouth accusations and flyers, and that's it. And that's usually good enough, because that literally, accusation like that can literally destroy a person in their entire neighborhood. And these undercover officers that are surrounding their target will literally follow the person they're targeting everywhere they go. Not all the time, but enough to know what their routine is. You know, like they want to know where you work. They want to know who your friends are. They want to know, where do you go grocery shopping? They want to know, where do you buy your clothing at? In other words, all the usual hangouts that you have, all the usual places you go, that's what they want to know. And the reason why is because they're going to pedify you there. That's why. They'll use word-of-mouth accusations and, yes, even flyers. And they usually stage crimes using officers as doubles. Look, law enforcement, everybody already knows law enforcement stages crimes. When you think of prostitution stings or drug bustings, what do you think about? You think about officers undercover dressing up as a criminal and performing criminal acts in order to entrap people. That's what you think about. Well, guess what? When they're targeting specific people, they do the same fucking thing. They'll dress up and act like a fucking criminal, only instead of dressing up like a drug dealer or dressing up like a prostitute, they dress up like you. They dress up like you. And then they stage crimes. And then they have their buddies and their girlfriends to back up false accusations on you. And, of course, you know, average people can't defend against such tactics. Who the hell can defend against such a thing? You know, it sounds very extreme to do shit like that to people. But you have to understand, the government is designed to target people. This is what they live for. They spend all their fucking lives targeting people. That's what government does. That's what they're paid to do. And when they have a target that they want to destroy, that's what they work on. That's what they work on. And they're paid to do this, so they don't give a shit. Anything and everything they do when they target people, they're paid to do it by the government. This is how they keep their job and how they earn their money. They target people. Okay? They don't give a fuck. Okay? They fill prisons all the fucking time. Human lives mean nothing to your fascist government. The USA government, big fat fucking fascist country. And they target people and they enjoy doing it. And you know what? Law enforcement fucking celebrates every fucking time they frame somebody. They celebrate. Every time they successfully frame somebody and then prosecute somebody, guess what? They celebrate again. If they get somebody convicted, they celebrate. Okay? They don't give a shit. They brag to their girlfriends that, yeah, they did it, they used the double to do this, and they're setting such and such person up, and they'll laugh and brag about it to their goddamn girlfriends and to their buddies, and they don't even give the fucking shit if they're caught doing this. They don't even care. You know why? Because there's not a human being on the face of this fucking fascist planet that a person can call that gives a shit. The whole system is fascist. Every fucking agency in this goddamn country is fascist. And it will continue to grow and become more and more fascist and more openly fascist. It's always been fascist, but they try to hide it. But it's becoming more and more openly fascist. This is an example of this fusion center crap. This is an example of how they're becoming more openly fascist. Okay? But they've always been this way. This is nothing fucking new at all. Nothing new at all. They don't give a shit about people. They don't care about people. They have been targeting people for decades and decades this way. They use the same tactics over and over again, and they don't give a shit. I have to keep my freaking coffee pot near me at all times. I have to keep my refrigerator near me at all times. My food and my coffee near me, because they're fucking poisoners. Government is poisoners. They poison people. And they fucking laugh about it. They laugh about it. They brag about it. They don't give a shit. And if you try to complain, they fucking smirk at you and they pretend you're mentally ill. If you go to a hospital, the hospital will refuse to take a toxicology test. And on the hospital paperwork, they'll label you either mentally ill, or they will label you a druggie, or both. And they sure as hell will not put down on the paperwork what you're reporting at all. Now, that's being openly fascist right there. When you try to report a crime, poisoning is a crime. When you try to report it and they refuse to take that complaint, guess fucking what? They're covering it up. It's that simple. They refuse to take a complaint. So they always poison people. They have poisoned people for fucking decades. They don't give a shit. They debilitate their victim. Their victim can no longer function normally because they're severely disabled from being poisoned. And it's difficult to even talk. To be poisoned, it's difficult to walk or talk. You can't function normally. So guess what they do? They label you mentally ill or as a druggie. And they'll plant shit in their target's home, paraphernalia, so that they can make their target look like a bad guy. And they try to hide it or conceal it from their target. And they don't care if you know. They don't care if people know. They don't care that I'm warning people over the internet about this shit. They could care less. I mean, very few people actually go to my blog. Okay, very few people go to my blog. I'm sure the vast majority of people that go are probably undercover fucking cops that were involved in setting my ass up, and they get a smirk out of seeing my attempts at trying to get their asses prosecuted. I'm sure they take great joy and delight and laugh and brag about, oh, look how Terry's trying to get their asses busted. Nobody cares. Ha 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 ha. You know, that's probably the majority of the people that go to my blog. There may be a few people that are genuinely concerned and maybe even victims themselves, I don't know. I'm pretty sure the vast majority of them are undercover cops that just enjoy hearing my ranting and shit. Because keep in mind, they're renting apartments around me right now. The vast majority of the apartments they're renting, they have civilians, not law enforcement officers, civilians in them that are buddies to law enforcement. Buddies / relatives / girlfriends of law enforcement. People that lie for cops, in other words. This apartment here, most definitely, they maintain with undercover officers. That's the muscle right there. They're there in case I decide I've had enough and I grab something to use in self-defense. That's what they're there for. The rest of them are civilians that are buddies with law enforcement, and they're just here to act as witnesses that will testify against me and testify on behalf of law enforcement. That's why they always surround their target. That's what they did to O.J. Simpson. Nicole Simpson made damn sure she surrounded O.J. Simpson with sting operatives before she left his property. It's the same thing. They always surround their targets with operatives, and government always tries to hide the fact they're operatives. Always. Surrounded by these sting operatives, so I know damn fucking full well that they have my ass surrounded around here. They've already pedophiled me. So basically they're in the stage of harassment where they harass. They'll use certain kind of noises and shit. Like this neighbor over here, he likes to use some kind of a horn noise late at night, usually around the time that I go to sleep or try to go to sleep. The undercover thug cops that are next door here, behind on the other side of this wall, they tend to slam doors. The people that are directly below me, they also slam doors. And they usually do it in unison. Like this person will slam his door, and then 30 seconds later, this person down below slams his door. And then 30 seconds later, this person again slams his door. And this kind of choreographed slamming noise that they make will last for about 2 minutes, and then they stop. And then like maybe a half hour to an hour later, they start again. And then that'll continue for about a minute and a half. They usually make noises that are in unison because it's something. Well, I'll put it this way. Let me put it this way. I live in this apartment. I'm in this apartment. So if the people in this apartment make a loud noise and the people in the apartment down below me make a loud noise, I'm going to fucking hear it. Okay? Well, they deliberately and intentionally make coordinated noises that are the same noises. Like this person will slam his door, and then this person down below will slam their door right after that, and then this person slam. They do that intentionally because it's their way of making it known just to me, not to everybody else in this apartment area. Just to me, it's their way of making it known that they're working together on this shit. They intentionally make it known to their target. They have me surrounded, so they'll do coordinated noises that basically is their way of making it known that, that they're involved. I'm sure that tactic works pretty well on terrorizing the living shit out of most people that they do this to. It doesn't terrorize me at all because I've been around these kind of people all my fucking life. I'm the type of person that doesn't get scared. I'm the type of person that hates people like this and is more than happy to drop one of them in self-defense. So they want to play these fucking bullshit mind games with me. I'm not going to give a shit. I know what they are, and I know who they work for, and I know what they got that they don't want to lose. Okay? And I have nothing to lose. So they really want to piss me off. I'm more than happy to force a fucking trial right off the bat. You know, I'll be happy to force these fuckers. I'll just beat the shit out of them in front of their own stacked jury. You know, the same way law enforcement recruits civilians into sting operations is the same way they control the court system, because they control the jury pool. Your law enforcement fills the jury pool with their bros and girlfriends, which is how they always guarantee that innocent people they're targeting end up going to prison, and it's how they guarantee when officers are forced because of public pressure to stand trial, it's how they guarantee that officers get acquittals. So they're very organized, they're very fascist. They don't give a fuck if I know, because they have every intention of killing me. They're not going to give me a trial for a damn thing. They're just going to kill me. I already know that. They've tried dozens of times to kill me. Why do you think I got to keep my coffee and my food near me at all times? And I have to keep my food under lock, so when I go to sleep at night, nobody can get into the fridge. I even have to lock up my coffee pot and my coffee. I have to lock that up. I got boxes right next to my bed. I have to put my coffee and my coffee pot in those boxes at night. And those boxes are right by me when I'm asleep on the pillow there. So nobody can mess with it without waking me up. I don't barricade the door, but I do put shit in front of it so that if somebody tries to open it, it'll make a noise. I put like the vacuum, and I put that light-ass shopping cart in front of it. That sure as hell isn't barricading the door, but it's a noise maker. It'll make a fucking noise if somebody tries to open a damn door. Because if they're actually stupid enough to try it, I'm man enough to deal with it. This is why they don't want to actually have a fucking trial. They know damn well I'm not going to sit in a fucking courtroom and shake like a fucking ass pedophile. I'm the one that's going to be beating the shit out of their asses in front of their own fucking stacked jury. And I ain't going to give a fuck about court. They fucking use doubles. I have their asses on an audio recorder bragging about it. They fucking committed a murder and they're bragging about that. And they were laughing and bragging to their girlfriends how they just used a double to set me up for it. And I caught the whole fucking thing on a goddamn audio recorder. So I don't give a fuck about court. I don't give a fuck about the Homeland piece of shit fucking security. I don't give a fuck about any of these goddamn corrupt-ass goddamn government agencies. They can all kiss my fucking ass. I have a history of saving lives, motherfuckers. I have a history of standing up to bullies, and I sure to hell ain't going to get intimidated by a bunch of coordinated dumb fucks. There's only one sting operative around here that seems to have any brains. The rest of them are just thugs or whores that are fond of using their coordinated harassment tactics and their coordinated street theater tactics that they do over and over again. Just like a bunch of dummies. They're stupid, for one thing. But like I said, they have no intention of giving me a trial. They just want to make me look bad on video surveillance, and then they want to murder me off, and then just give me the blame for shit, just like they always, just like law enforcement always does. Hell, they did that to what? They did that to Lee Harvey Oswald. They gave him the blame for the murder of the freaking president or something, and then they fucking murdered Lee Harvey Oswald so that he'd be stuck with the fucking blame. No trial, no jack shit. Jesus fucking Christ, man. This government's so fucking... This government is so fucking fascist, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. They don't even give a shit if people know. They had a water filtration system under my fucking sink, and they were using that to poison me to death. Every month when I would leave the apartment to go to the bank to get my SSI and go grocery shopping, they would come into the apartment and they were fucking using that. They would fill that stinking thing with poison. So any fucking time I tried to use the tap water, I'm being poisoned by the fucking tap water. When I discovered it was a water filtration system under there, I went to go get this camera that I'm using to record this vlog right now so that I can come back home and get that water filtration system on video, and they fucking removed it. So they came in the apartment when I was gone to get this very camera. It's an El Cheapo cell phone, actually. I paid $30 for this. And when I came back to get that water filtration system on video, the fucking thing's gone. In its place is brand new tap line hoses with the tags and shit, everything on it. Brand spanking shiny new. And everybody, the apartment manager here it was kitty quarter down here, just directly below the apartment that's next door here, is acting like nothing happened. My oldest daughter is acting like nothing happened. She's pretending to not even remember anything being under there after they removed it. Doesn't change the fact the evidence of their very recent tap read still under there with the brand fucking new hoses and shit, of which I got on video. Which that was all I could get on video because they fucking removed the water filtration system. But the evidence of their recent tap read is under there. So they don't give a shit if their victims know they're being targeted. They don't care. They already know. I know my oldest daughter was recruited into this shit. She's not here right now. She's at work. They know damn well I'm prepared to act in self-defense. I'm more than happy to exercise my right to self-defense and force a trial. And I guarantee you, I'm more than happy to actually draw as much attention to the trial as humanly possible. I would kick the judge in the nuts if I thought it got a bigger trial. Okay? I don't give a fuck about court. I proved they're guilty. They were sleeping around with my wife and daughters. They recruited my wife and daughters into sting operations. They were immediately targeting me and my parents. They murdered my parents. They framed me on 44 bullshit felony charges. They didn't even back up. There was never even a trial for it because they just wanted to pedify me. And then they continued to murder off other relatives. And they tried to keep me in the dark on all that. And in 2005, they arranged to have me battered by the Portland Police and County Sheriffs. I had a broken rib, fucked up knee, and my wife and her side of the family made damn sure I could not go to a hospital. They didn't take me to a hospital. They didn't call 911 for an ambulance for me. Nothing. They took me to my mother-in-law's home. So there I am, stuck and debilitated with a broken rib, a fucked up knee, and I'm not taken to a fucking hospital, and I'm surrounded by sting operatives that sleep around with the very people that battered me. So I'm being denied emergency services, and while I was debilitated and denied emergency services, my wife and her daughters were palling around with and sleeping around with a cop that dyed his hair blonde. He's a close lookalike to me, but he's a brunette. I'm a blonde, and he's a brunette, and he was sleeping around with my wife and our daughters, and he dyed his fucking hair blonde so that he could act as a double. And when I discovered this, I tried to warn people about it, and that's when my wife poisoned the living shit out of me. And I was so badly debilitated, I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk. I mean, it really fucked me up. And I was surrounded by people that knew she poisoned me, and they just smiled and smirked and pretended nothing's wrong, while they continued to sleep around with those cops. Well, I discovered 2 years later they were setting my ass up for murders, and my wife's lover, Officer Eric Carlson of the Portland Police Department, along with his partner, Officer John the Mexican Ray, committed a fucking murder on March 26, 2007. They murdered a child. They committed a break-in, and they committed a fucking murder. And they were fucking planning shit in my home, trying to set me up for this shit. And I caught them in the act on an audio recorder. And I caught them bragging about it to their girlfriends at Clackamas Walmart. And I caught them recruiting Walmart employees there to lie for their sick asses. And I caught them printing flyers, giving me the blame for the fucking murder they just committed. And I caught my wife and Officer Eric Carlson bragging about their planned pre-wedding party they were going to have. And they were planning that pre-wedding party that day. This is just like 3 hours, pretty much right after they got done printing the flyers. Right after they got done printing the flyers, give me the blame for their shit. My wife and her fuck buddy, the Portland pedo cop, was planning their pre-wedding party. A half hour later, Officer Eric Carlson was bragging to his superior that he even pedophiled me behind prison walls. And he was laughing about how I'm not going to survive this one. He literally made the statement that I'm not going to survive this. He said, he's referring to me when he said Terry's not going to survive this one. And his superior said to him in response, "Can he walk on water?" And they're laughing about this shit. Okay? Now I have them on a fucking audio recorder having these conversations in the back of Clackamas fucking Walmart, where they bragged to an entire fucking store full of employees. So I know damn fucking full well that local authorities not only murder people, not only frame people, but they laugh and brag about it to their girlfriends and to their buddies, because it's sport for law enforcement and their buddies and their girlfriends to do this to people. It's sport to them. They treat it that way. And they admit pedophiling gets people killed. Gee, how many people in the U.S. of A. end up dead after they're pedophiled? Gee, was it Michael Jackson killed? Did they not pedophile him? He was never convicted in a courtroom of any crime. But they pedophiled him for, a decade before they murdered him? They just non-stop pedophiled him. Well, gee, I have a shit ton of fucking pieces of... I have a shit ton of fucking pieces of shit cops, people in law enforcement, bragging to their goddamn girlfriends and to their buddies they murder people this way. And they laugh and they brag about it. And they enjoy doing this shit to people. They get a kick out of it. I've never tried walking on water before. But I sure the fuck know how to catch a goddamn bunch of bragging pedophiles and serial killers in law enforcement bragging to their girlfriends and to their buddies. Yeah, I see why they don't want to have a trial, but they maintain sting operative presence near me at all times. They have the armed muscle right here, next door. That's the armed muscle. That's the actual law enforcement that's actually undercover, that try to hide the fact they're law enforcement. These people down below may be in law enforcement, but they have civilians involved. I think one of them may be in law enforcement, and they have their girlfriends and their girlfriends' brats down there. This one here, he's just a fat fucking slob. He's not in fucking law enforcement. So he's just a fat fucking slob that's either a relative of somebody in law enforcement or a good buddy of people in law enforcement. But he's just a fat slob kiss up for law enforcement. I know damn well he's just a civilian. He's not in law enforcement. And the person that's below him, he's a retired cop. And I know he's fully involved in this. I can tell he's a pro. He's the only one of these idiots that's actually semi-intelligent when it comes to this sting-off crap that they do. Obviously, he's very skilled and experienced in framing and setting up people. Of course, I've been around these type of people all my life, so I can very easily categorize and generalize them as to what they are in a very, in a very simple and generic way, down-to-earth way. This is the meat, that's the muscle, that are actually badge carriers that are pretending to be tenants. They're the muscle, they're the armed muscle. Should I act like, let's say I say, fuck it, I'm sick and tired of this crap. I can't get help from 911. I'm justified in acting in self-defense. Fuck it, I'm going to act in self-defense. I'm not going to put up with this shit anymore, and I drop one of these son of bitches, or attempt to. That's what the muscle next door is for. And they know damn fucking full well I know about them. They have my apartment illegally bugged. They have this apartment because it gives them attic access so that they can put hidden cameras up on the ceiling. Because they love their top-down view. You know why they like top-down view? Because they use doubles. That's why. They love using doubles to stage shit. They love performing for their illegal video surveillance. They love it. They're just like Hollywood directors and shit. They love staging shit and then giving their targets to blame. They'll set up a staged event. It's like a prostitution sting. There's like 30 people involved in a prostitution sting. Half of them are females, and most of those females are usually acting as dressing up as a bunch of prostitutes. And what are they doing? They're literally whoring themselves, literally. So technically, you can legally call them whores because by their own actions, they're demonstrating by their own actions they are whores. They act like whores, they dress like whores, and they're wanting money and they're soliciting. So technically, they're whores. Whether they actually do the deed or not doesn't matter. They're still whores. And they stage shit, and all this shit they stage, they do for video surveillance in order to frame and entrap people. Okay. Well, it's no different when they target specific people at their homes. It's no different. They love to stage shit. They love to control the surrounding area so that only their operatives can testify and act as witnesses. And then, of course, they can overwhelm any individual as testimony through sheer numbers. So my word means nothing in a court of law when law enforcement has me surrounded by sting operatives that will lie for cops. See, that's why they surround their targets. That's why they surround their targets with operatives. And essentially, they're in harassment and pester mode where they're trying to provoke me into taking action. Oh, I guarantee you, if and when I do take an action, I guarantee you it will be fucking swift. So swift that thick-headed meat wouldn't be able to have a chance to prevent. I guarantee you that. And I guarantee you I wouldn't give a fuck about courts. I would love nothing more than these dumb fuck idiots to admit to my face. I would love nothing more for them to flash their fucking badge and put on some form of bullshit pretense. I'd be more than happy to just instantly drop the motherfucker right then and there and not give the slightest fucking shit. Thank you for admitting you're involved in my father's murder. Thank you for admitting to that. Drop! Just like that. Not give a fucking shit. Not give a fucking shit. Thank you for admitting you're my wife's lover's partner. Thank you for admitting to that. Drop. That's why I ain't going to give a fuck. That's why I'm not going to give a shit about court. I don't care. I care less what their opinions are. I could care less about their fucking threats. I could care fucking less. I want their asses in court. Hell, I would kick the judge in the nuts just to draw more attention to their crimes. I don't care. I don't care. They fucking murdered my parents. They turned my wife and daughters against me. They were fucking framing me for crimes that cops were committing. My wife and daughters were fucking helping them do this shit. These fucking cops were sleeping around with my wife and daughters during that time, and they debilitated me by poisoning me, and they kept me debilitated and denied me fucking help at any fucking hospital. I am more than happy to act in self-defense and demand justice, and any action I take, considering the fact that they all bragged to me on a bunch of it.